Well, that's why referrals are so effective, right?
Exactly.
Because it's done.
Exactly.
It's like there's no fight. There's no haggling usually over price. It's just, yo, Jimmy told me I should call you.
Yep.
When's the soonest you can get here?
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like,
you practice
boom.
that accent? That's pretty good.
Oh, no, I got a handful of them, man.
I'm going to need a bomb drop on that one.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ServiceMonster podcast. My name is Joe Kowalski, and I am your host today. Today, we're going to talk about some sales chops. Bring in Javi, our main sales guy here. And, man, we could talk about that for infinitum.
Yeah, I've heard you and Javi talk for infinity at the end of the day.
We could just grab one little thing and just go. But I'll try to keep us relevant to stuff that, you know, they'll use. I'm sure Javi's already taken this angle, so he's big on the it's about them, not us train.
Right.
So we'll be bringing him in momentarily, but first let's take care of some housekeeping. Adam, where are we at?
Well, we have an update on the horizon, but I think I'm going to wait for that for next week because I don't want to kind of
give out too soon.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we'll just kind of dive right into SMUG. First off, there was a note in here from Jordan and talking about asking if there's a way to make the default a task rather than a note. And really,
the default activity type.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
You left out some words.
Yep. Words are good in the English language. Thank you, Joe. Yes. And so I thought it'd be kind of a good opportunity to explain kind of why the task operates differently, why there's some different notes there, and then whether or not that's something that, you know, we can look into. But it all started differently in 5 and it kind of came together over in 6. So I just thought it'd be kind of a good time to take that moment to explain the differences between note, task, call, etc.
You just sprang that right on me.
It's been in the notes.
I do know I don't read the notes. And this is a big topic.
Yes.
Yeah, you totally blew that up. All right, so let's rewind for a second. This is a great example of one of my many little failures where I over-engineered something and made it easy for us as engineers, but then made it a little more difficult on the user. So the general concept was, hey, these things, notes and call records and email records and activities, essentially, they all have a lot of the same fields. So let's store them in one giant table called activities where it's easier to manage. And then through a geek term we call polymorphism, kind of change the screen as the different types. A note is just a note in 5. And that made it really hard to explain. It was easy to maintain. The tech was solid, right? It worked. But from a user's point of view, it was kind of like the same screen that changed faces and made them confusing. So in 6, what we did is we just said an activity is an activity is an activity. And the type just represents the type. There's no polymorphism at all. So you can actually put a note on the schedule. Fine. Why not? What's the difference between a note and an activity or a task or whatever the different types we have? There's really not much to it. It's a categorization. It's a reporting mechanism. It gives you an idea of what happened or is going to happen. You mark the note essentially as a call. So you can think about it all as a note, and then we're giving it a little different flavor. So now I understand what he means by most of the time I do task, not note, because I mean something from a process point of view to his company. And I can sympathize with that. One thing that I would like to start doing is making things sticky. So when you open a note, if you change it to activity and you make all your changes and you hit save, the next time you open a note, maybe that's one of those fields that now it's stated as activity. Oh, that's interesting, because then you can enter in a bunch of calls at one time, a bunch of activities at one time. And I mean, if you need to change it, you need to change it. Your luck of it being on the right one is 1 out of, 3 or 4?
Yeah.
So So things like that. I want to make things like that more sticky. Certain fields make sense, like a BCC field on an email list makes sense. That should be sticky. Like not just a setting somewhere. That's nice because then you can go set it up. But I mean, it remembers. It helps you out. So we need to do more of that. So so rolling this all the way back, where we landed on in 6, I think is a solid piece of tech and a fairly easy thing to explain. It's a note. That type just gives it a flavor and helps you in your business process.
There is one extra thing, though, and that's with the technician app. And that's where the question kind of sprung to, is the only thing that really pulls through on that front page is a task.
That's right.
So,
well, and then the idea there is in 5, a task was the only schedulable activity type.
right.
But when we took it as it was all the same thing, in 6, that means anything could be scheduled. So then the question becomes, do you want more than a task to show up on the schedule within Technician? And to be honest, this is kind of the first conversation we've had about it internally, which demonstrates to me it's not that big of a deal. The ROI in chasing that down might not be huge. Maybe I'm wrong, and this is an opportunity for you SMUG users to jump in and rally together and say, please put notes on my Technician schedule. More than happy to do so.
There you go. Glad I sprung that on you.
Yeah, there we go.
So the next one came through from Bruno. And you actually responded to this one in SMUG itself, but he's asking about export drip campaigns. And while the whole process might be best to just show a video link, we don't have to obviously explain the whole thing. But I think it'd just be one of those things that, we could briefly just kind of explain what an export campaign is, what it's for, and how the drip campaign kind of uses that process.
So let's talk about it from a business point of view. So let's say I get talked into doing a fax campaign from a third-party company where I'm just going to like send out faxes to commercial accounts, right? Well, I can set up a campaign that will then export a file. It's what's known as a CSV. It opens in Excel. It's a spreadsheet format. It represents raw data for your accounts that match the query or the filter or whatever the output was from. And that allows you to send that file to a third party and have them then load up the call script, load up the direct mail campaign, print the labels for the postcards, what other third-party tasks you might do. Email lists, right? If you're using, let's say, you're using MailChimp or Vertical Response or Constant Contact as your email provider, you would use these to keep your separate lists updated within there. So the CRM actually divides the lists up, keeps your current clients current, and then you just keep your lists updated that way. And then you can go backwards, although that's not as easy. I won't even get into that can of worms. Sorry, I said anything.
Yeah, I think it might be best if we just have a quick video or article thing there. But Bruno, if you or anyone else is curious, the main kind of change there is the file itself won't show up on the drip campaign screen. It's going to show up where the transaction happens on the campaign screen.
Are we emailing notification when it runs?
I think it does, but it's been a while since I've actually run one.
Okay.
So
can we check that and make sure that that's working correctly? Because ideally what it should do is you should come in the morning to your email and it should have some attachments so you can print out your labels and stuff, stamp and seal before you get on with your day.
The way you don't have to dig down.
Yeah, either that or use Fill My Schedule. And then we do all that crap for you.
Yeah. The next one comes from Kevin, talking about texting that invoice URL, that there was a bug going on. And I really just wanted to kind of mention that this is going to be fixed in that release.
Right.
So the release is coming up.
Text. Notification goes out, provides link to pay your invoice online. It's showing up with the link works, but it's showing up with some HTML around it.
Yep.
And that release is going in this next release, which should be released next week.
Yeah, it's either going to be next week or the week after, but
Okay.
that's where.
Yeah. There's some big things in there.
Yeah.
And some big things that are hidden that only we will be able to see, so we can play with them in production and make sure they look cool.
Very cool.
That's right. And we will not be giving those links out, so don't even try.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna get emailed. That's happening. Thank you as always, though, to our SMUG users. It was a little bit of a slow week, so there wasn't a whole lot else in there that I wanted to grab, but always thankful for you guys' collaboration. For this week's deep dive, you already mentioned Javi. Everyone already knows him, but I'm going to tag out, let Javi kind of sit in. Why don't you just do another quick introduction to Javi, and I'll see you guys in the B-roll.
Yeah. Javier Santana. This is where you put the black magic woman.
Should've brought my guitar too. you can't have.
You got to get on the mic.
You can't have the last name Santana and not know
How to Santana?
how to Santana, man.
That's right.
Yeah,
One of the greatest guitarists of all time.
that's right. He's got big hands too.
He's right up there with Jimmy.
Right up there.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I got-
He's
I
still
got-
got a ways to get to Jimmy,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you got to stay on the mic there, bro.
All right, here we go. Can you hear me? All right.
So welcome, Javier. We're going
Thank you.
to talk about sales, and that's kind of where we're going to focus. We can do it for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. So
we have.
yeah, I'm
Yep.
hoping that you brought some chops to focus on. That's kind of about them, how some tactics that we know that from talking to hundreds of service providers,
Absolutely.
things that will help them. So I want to focus on that. But I also want to talk about how you are a living embodiment of one of the things I talk about when it comes to building a successful organization, finding rock stars early in their game. You know, you're an entrepreneur who's early in their journey, and you decided to come work for ServiceMonster to see how all this shit works together. And so
Insane.
building bricks. So talk a little bit about that experience, man, how you ended up here at ServiceMonster and kind of the sales flavor, but also that entrepreneurial journey and how you wound up
Yeah.
talking to these guys.
Yeah, sure. You know, I moved to this town, and that's where I started looking for jobs. And I don't know, the corporate environment never seemed appealing to me, but this is just different. It still has that startup feel to it, where every decision like will make an impact 5-10 years later, and I want to be a part of something like that big, right? And I think the biggest thing that has been such a mind rock for me, right, is like, wow, there's actually stuff going on. Like, okay, well, I come into a software company to find out that our biggest competitor isn't a software company; it's pen and paper. We're talking about shifting the foundation of somebody's business, somebody's livelihood. And when people aren't like, first off, they don't want to be on the phone with you.
Right.
Like they
And their pen and paper work for them.
it's pen and paper. They've done it for 20, 30 years, or they handed it out to somebody else, or they've worked their business part-time for a couple of years. Now they're starting to take it seriously. And they're jumping onto a software, and it's painful.
Or they're millennial and they download it from the store.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. And or because that's all they know, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure, like up to this point, to understand their mindset on how you can solve that issue. And what I learned more than anything is that I have one of these and two of these. I'm pointing at my mouth and ears.
Yeah.
Right.
Podcast.
Yeah, a podcast, right? And so we have two ears and one mouth, and I feel like sometimes letting them just talk about their workflow process because they're so proud of it, because they should be, because they're crushing it, and versus trying to come in and save the day with your software features.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, I don't know. It's kind of like going to the doctor, right? If you go to the doctor and and doctor says, well, do you have a sore throat? Because I have a sore throat. You should have a sore throat. Versus letting them listen or talk to you, letting your patient talk to you. And then they do their whole prescription thing, right? It's the same exact thing. You have to let them diagnose themselves almost like, well, what's your problem? Here, let me see if I can fix that for you. And sometimes I can't, you know.
So ServiceMonster on your entrepreneurial journey has not only given you access to what's going on inside ServiceMonster, but now because of B2B, you see all these,
the macro,
all these, every single owner operator trying to do their thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a pretty good exposure.
Right.
So these guys, the sales game, and let's break this down for a second because I think people get confused between sales and marketing, and I just talk about it, right, because it's just second for me at this point. Marketing, like what Michael was here for. How do you capture attention? How do you focus on your core demographic? How do you bring them in the form of leads? In the service world, your best attempt is going to be that phone call during work hours.
Right.
Right. And then answering the damn phone, which, you know, I've barked about before. Answer the phone. And then, of course, if you have office staff, then great. And then also setting up lead capture on your website. We've said that before. And then it's the then what. So if you have lead capture, you're doing good engagement on social media. You're bringing in the occasional lead there. You're getting hit up on Messenger. Right. That's how I find service providers now. I've hired a rash of them, and it's all through Facebook and Messenger and going on like Brits List and groups, and then linking to there and looking at their reviews, and then clicking Messenger and be like, yo, what's up?
Right.
And then boom, here, phone call, and I call them, and then now I have two pipelines. I can either call them or message them. Easy. And it's so easy. Yeah.
It's convenient for you.
Right. So if you guys aren't even there yet, like that's something you need to work on, but that's all marketing. Right. That's all the marketing side. So it's the sales starts in two places. Number one, it's on the phone. Either you called them from a lead or they called you. You've got to connect with those individuals and find out what it is they want from your company. And then in the home. So there's two very different processes, two dances in this disco. And we've got to separate those two. And it's a different skill set, different mindset, right? The first one is get the job booked. But you have to set proper expectations. I'm seeing a lack of this lately. People complaining, pressure washers. This seems to be a rash in the pressure washing industry now that the weather's getting better. Right. Dude will be like, come pressure wash my house. And be like, here's your estimate. $1,000. Holy shit, that dude did it for $100. Call that dude. Yeah. He's not around no more. I wonder why. Right. But expectations. Somebody saying, I won't pay this $700. This is crazy. Arguing after the work.
Exactly.
Obviously, expectations were not managed properly.
Absolutely.
So then you've got the booking, right? Go and do the estimate or do some of the work. And then you've got the in-home estimate sales process or upsells process. Right. So what have you picked up, things that we can talk about? And I know you read too, so we can talk about some books or whatever.
Readers are leaders.
Yeah. And these guys don't really read, right? But they'll do. I
listen to stuff.
Right, me too. Right. Audacity all the way.
Exactly.
Right? No, not Audacity. That's the editing software.
Audible.
Thank you,
Audible.
Justin.
Yeah, there it is.
The media guy.
We don't read, obviously.
Audible.
We just download the app and we click the yellow
That's
app.
it.
That's all.
Push the button. So you're talking to these guys all the time. And I love this because you can, and I haven't figured it out, but I think there's like 12 categories you could put our prospects coming in, generalized buckets. Right? You got the type A accountant personality. You can see those coming from a mile away. Yeah. All the T's and all the I's, and QuickBooks is a big deal. Right. Yep. And then you've got one of my favorite flavors is the sales guy who, cleaning whatever, selling. Yeah. That's the business I'm building. Michael Hampton is like this, right? He's got a $2 million business. He's taking over the entire Eastern Seaboard hotel chains. He's killing it because he's all about the sale. Right. Yeah, they learn how to clean, and they do a decent job, but he's not going to get in a fight with Mikey over getting olefin clean,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
He doesn't go that deep.
Doesn't care.
No.
Yeah.
So he cares about the business model,
Exactly.
and sales solves all.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where his mindset is. So you talk to these guys. What are some of those sales guys winning at? What are some things that you've heard that talked about that you can give these guys advice for on that phone, getting that call, getting that hooked up? How do you book that job cleanly and set the expectation?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Well, first off, if being in a situation where somebody says, "Oh wow, I'm offended, $1,000 for this," like, are you kidding me? The guy down the road did it for like 100 last year. You see, like, that's knowing what to say and how to say it. I think is sometimes handling those objections and knowing that it's gonna be always the same thing. It's too much time, or too much money. It costs too much. I need to talk to the spouse. All those objections, as long as you know them out in the field and you know how to respond to them, you're good.
Your
Right.
book of objections.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just study those every day. I should be able to wake you up in the cold sweat of your sleep at 3 a.m. and say, "Joe, it's too much money."
But that's $300 an hour.
Yeah, and then you should be able to just say it. Like, yeah, it's $300 an hour, but you have to realize I worked this for 30 years. It didn't take me an hour to learn this.
You're not paying me the hourly wage. You're
No.
paying me the value I provide and the expertise to give you this quality level of service.
Exactly. Go to your dentist and say the exact same thing.
That's right.
Right? Tooth
Totally.
extraction, what is that? It takes like half an hour. But I
Back
think
office dentistry coming to your area. $15 an hour. I'm all over that.
that's right, man. That's why people go to Mexico for that stuff.
That's right. Oh God.
But I think setting the expectation is major. Always, you're solving their problem. You're there, from the phone call. The minute you pick up the phone call, you're listening to your customer. So
Solving the problem. Like that's the biggest.
that's
Because they're not going to call you when they don't have a problem.
exactly. They're not gonna call like, okay, it's you have to have that great customer service, of course, right? But if you don't solve their problem, you can be the nicest guy in the world. They're not calling you to be their friend. They're calling you to get their issue handled.
That's right.
And if you're not the most, if you're not the cheapest guy in town, like it's not a bad thing. It's okay to have.
Well, it depends on your target demographic too, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is where marketing and sales kind of collide. Let's go over a couple scenarios here that I've seen from a data point of view over the years. We'll take a company that has a decent marketing response. So they're managing their and measuring their responses. And the responses in a couple campaigns are super good, but their close ratios are super low. They're not really booking any jobs off of it. Lots of leads coming in, not a booked job. What does that tell me? It tells me the expectations that the ads or the whatever the leads that were coming in, the lead sheets that brought them in, didn't set the expectation properly. And so the agents weren't able to close the deal because once the expectations were then revealed,
right.
the fish got away.
Right.
You could see the inverse where you have, not a great prospecting effort, but they're producing a certain number of leads, but you're closing 50% of those leads.
It's pretty good.
That's a pretty good number. Yeah. I mean, 25%,
That's ridiculous.
I would say that's
Still,
great.
25% is great. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
well, we kill it here, so
I know,
we won't even
right?
talk about our numbers. But it's this slow drip lead thing, though, right? Because
Right.
it's getting people off paper and it's, overcoming some of the mobile challenges that we have right now. Wait till we release that, though. That's a whole freaking ridiculously that hook lands, dude. We'll have less competitors than we do today.
that's right.
So, I want them to kind of feel like the problem that they solve is the paramount crux. They're not going to call you if they don't have a problem.
Yeah.
And you've got to really focus on how you're going to provide value by solving that problem.
Yeah.
And that's what you should focus on. Like not how long you've been there. Maid services do this a lot. I'm getting more into maid service groups and kind of helping them out. And man, trading dollars for hours is like the core mentality there. And you can see the bigger players don't have it. It's not, they're running a business.
Phase them.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a hard thing to overcome, but being able to stand up to that person and say, look, you have a problem. I have the expertise. You're going to be able to trust me, and I do quality work.
Trust.
Done.
Trust.
Yep.
Man, that's key. And there's no book on how to win friends and influence people, right?
Right.
But you just have to go learn how to build that with people. You're not going to have a 3-step to everything, right? Learning how to build trust. Like, people will listen to you if they like you, but they'll give you their money if they trust you.
That's right.
And building that trust is, I think that's business. Business isn't numbers. It's not statistics. It's not all these, KPIs. Business is people, right?
Always comes down to people.
Always comes down to people. So every interaction, everybody in your company, from the CEO to the guy doing the, pushing the wand or moving around the squeegee on the window, needs to always be selling, no matter what. Whether if you're selling value, if you're upselling, whatever the case is, selling them on the fact that they made the right decision and they're going to continue to make the right decision if you call us again. I don't care if you say, well, I'm not a salesperson or whatever the case is. Yeah, you are. Stop selling me on the fact that you're not a salesperson.
That's right.
And if you have that mentality in your company that you're always selling no matter what, then you're good, because then it's one step. Like, it's always a drip. It's always a way to kind of showcase whatever it is that you're trying to solve. And you're giving you're giving your customers reasons to brag about your service to their friends. And the more you can do that, the more your company establishes that like trust with that person. And then
that's why referrals are so effective, right?
Exactly.
Because it's done.
Exactly.
It's like there's no fight. There's no haggling usually over price. It's just, yo, Jimmy told me I should call you.
Yep.
When's the soonest you can get here?
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like,
you practice
boom.
that accent? That's pretty good.
Oh, no, I got a handful of them, man.
I'm going to need a bomb drop on that one.
Anyway, no, yeah, so trust. Solve their problem, get their trust. Now, again, there's a million different ways to do this, but you don't want to do it. You don't want to try to establish trust while you're selling them. That's the worst time.
Right.
Oh my God, because they already have their guard up, right?
Yeah.
And you're not looking to jab or hook. You're looking to have a handshake.
Yeah.
And they're all like, "What's up, bitch?"
Yeah.
And no, that's not how you. No.
It's a long-term game.
So how we break that barrier is we produce giant amounts of content that give business stuff away for free.
Right.
And then you listen and you go, oh, yeah, that Joe sounds like he kind of knows what he's talking about. And they did process $500 million in invoices last year. And
Maybe I should listen.
I've never caught him in a lie. And he's been live on social for 3 years, like at 100%.
Yeah.
And the people that work for him seem to kind of like the company and what they're doing. And their customers are pretty freaking cool. And then bring, yo, Javi, what's up? And you're like, are you ready to go or what?
Yeah, and it's
How can we solve your problem? What problems are you having right now?
exactly. They're like halfway there by the time the phone rings.
That's right.
And when they're not, they're at least receptive to hearing it.
Yeah, because most of the time they've seen us on social, like not all the time, but
And when they don't, it's always that referral that you were talking
That's
about.
right.
So and so told me to call you.
ice broken.
My mentor, whatever the case is, they operate a massive business with ServiceMonster. I look up to them. I'm gonna try to copy and emulate what they're doing. Maybe I'll end up around the same place. So I'm just gonna do this and figure it out as I go. So what can they do as far as like quality content to
gain that trust?
Yeah, to gain that
so they
trust.
can be an authority figure, right?
Right.
They can put out quality looking, before and afters. There's a whole marketing podcast we
so
did a
satisfying.
couple weeks ago So that'd be one to check out, right? That Michael and I talk a lot about Instagram. There's a whole segment in there about curating content and what to look for. Because it's like, oh, how many before and afters can I do, Joe? And my answer is always as many as they'll let you get away with.
Yes.
As many as they'll keep clicking likes and paying attention to you with.
Answer is yes.
Just pour it on. Now, if it sucks, the market will let you know. No one will engage with it.
Exactly.
And the ones that they engage in, you start learning, like, what do you like? Oh, they like it when we do that. Okay, more of that.
Exactly.
Right?
The market will tell you, right?
100%. And social tells you quick. It's like a echo chamber, so it's pretty...
Spiral.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, so what else can we... So, right, solving the problem, establishing trust, content creation ahead of time helps with that if you're doing, if you're consistent. Because consistency is a tool that helps build trust pretty quickly. Yeah. Right? There's even a tactic that was taught, about sending letters. You send 3 letters. And this works. I think Joe Polish has a model off this 3-letter. I don't know if he has this tactic in it, though. And it goes, look, you send the first letter and you say, hey, I'm going to be sending you a couple letters over the next couple weeks where we're going to touch on this topic.
Setting their expectations.
Then the second letter comes out and reminds them, remember when we sent you the first letter and we said we're going to send you a couple more? This is the second one in the series. And we'll be sending you a third one after this. And just that alone helps to establish, well, they're consistent. They did what they said they were going to do over a period of time. And so many people fail on consistency.
Crucial. How you do anything is how you do everything. Up.
Totally. So that whole process helps to establish trust too. So you can use stuff like that, blog posts that do that, email, mass emails that do that. Yep. So you can work it, but it is a long game.
Yeah.
Right.
It is a very long game. There's no shortcut to it. If you want a shortcut, go buy a lotto ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I would also say that when you're shopping in towards the higher end of the value market, not just the higher end market, but the higher end of the value market, and then moving into the higher end market, the dance of negotiation and price shock just kind of goes away.
It does.
So then you have the conversation is how quickly can you come and do it? Do I already trust that you're going to do an excellent job? Are you worth the extra, ducats I'm willing to throw at this? And to a handful of people, there's a demographic out there. The answer to that question is, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like $30 an hour or $60 an hour. I'm not losing sleep over it either way. Right. And to a lot of people, that's a huge difference, right? $500 a day to a contractor is, a lot of money. But if they're solving your problem,
exactly,
then you're rolling with it.
You don't have to do it.
That's right.
It saves you a lot of time, focus, and energy.
Right. So going after those higher tickets, but then what does it take to get there, right? That trust level.
It takes trust.
Right. But
you're always looking to recruit up, right? Like if you're in the wrong demographic, referrals. If you do good work, you're gonna get referred up. If you do bad work, you're gonna get referred down.
Or not referred.
Or not referred at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but if you feel trapped, you have this demo. My town doesn't blah 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 and all those excuses.
Because my town's different and
right. Or hey, I'm running a successful operation. I'm hitting the value market. That's kind of the blue ocean. My competitors can't do it because we can do it cheaper. Like I'm all cool. Like if your margins are good and that's your business model, awesome. You just have to, your sales chops are just going to have to be better. But then again, it's a numbers game, right? Door knocking. You can't cold call anymore. Don't do that. That doesn't build trust. Door knocking, though, leaving flyers, that kind of stuff, help drum up business. Again, that's more on the marketing side to bring in those leads.
Yeah.
But then being quick to follow up on the leads. So solve their problem, do it quickly, gain trust.
And gain trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Can't focus on that more. That when you said that, man, that's like, you're going into people's spaces, man.
No kidding.
Like their best friends don't even go in there.
Yep.
Or the backyard.
That's
like
right.
That. They're not
master
home.
bedroom.
Exactly.
Yeah, where you hide all the bodies.
All the bodies, man. Right. But that trust is key, and you just got to be a good person. You can't teach that. Kindness is gangster.
That's true.
So
yeah. Yeah. So if you suck as a person, you probably shouldn't own a service business and or find a salesperson who can take that role.
Right. Right.
If people get creepy vibes from you for whatever reason, you're probably not going to be selling shit.
We can't help you.
But if you're charismatic and your shirt's clean and you don't smell like cigarettes or smell like pot or smell like BO, I'm not saying you have to like smell like 50 Cent or anything. Like that guy
Nothing
pours on the
fancy,
cologne,
right?
but just be presentable.
Exactly.
Have your teeth and they're clean.
Yeah. I mean, some people haven't smelled since like Nixon was in office. Like
right.
just smile. I don't care if you have no teeth.
Yep.
Like
decent haircut, right?
Yeah.
It's like don't display the neck tattoos proudly.
Yep.
Right? and smile and be positive.
That's
so
massive.
I want to focus on that, positivity. Because you can be a decent salesperson. You can gain the trust through authenticity, but you can also be like that, yeah, man, I hear you. Life sucks. Let's get you scheduled so we can take care of this problem for you. Right. Like no energy, saying all the right things, but just like
it's how you say it.
Totally. And again, smile can be heard over the phone.
It can.
Yeah, I say and again. That's the first time we said it in this podcast. I'll say it again so that it's relevant. A smile can be heard over the telephone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of the story of being pessimistic versus optimistic, right? Family with two boys, they're identical twins. One's super pessimistic, one's very optimistic, and the parents kind of get together like, okay, let's try to make the pessimistic optimistic and vice versa. So they buy a pony, and in one of the kids' rooms, they put that pony in there into the pessimistic kid's bedroom, right? He walks in there and like, oh man, there's a pony in here. It sucks. Like it's pooping everywhere, and like it smells bad. And it's gonna kick me and all these things, and then the little optimistic boy goes into his room, and there's a bunch of horse crap in there, just everywhere, just covered in poop, man. And he's like, the parents walk in there, he's covered in poop, he's like digging around everywhere, and like, what are you doing, boy? Like, what's going on? Well, with all this horse crap in here, there's bound to be a pony around here somewhere. Like, it's always trying to find the positive, thing in something that you can't control, right? Like if you break down the word responsibility, it's the ability to respond to those outside circumstances, whether if it's a bad customer or you had somebody cut you off in traffic, and you pick up the phone the next second, and Joe's cleaning services is they write a bad review about you because you had a bad day. Like, don't let that affect you. Like always find that positive thing in any circumstance, right? Like that goes a lot further, whether if you gain somebody's business or not. They're going to remember that. Leave them better than how you found them.
Yeah, positivity. Just being positive, rolling with the punches and adapting, smiling and being positive.
That's right.
Fight with your girlfriend in the morning, that's fine. Leave that shit alone. When you walk into Mrs. Jones' house, you smile.
That's right.
Bottom line. Be positive or find salespeople that are positive.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about business, right? You can recruit what you're not.
That's right.
And, in school, that's called cheating,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they're in the home, right? They got the estimate. They booked the job over the phone. Now they come into Mrs. Jones' home. So you got two flavors here, of course, the estimate game, right? The proposal. And then the other one is, I'm here to do some work, and oh, by the way, we have these additional products and services.
Yeah.
And again, I think these are two different conversations, right? Two different goals, two different sets of, where the phone was, hopefully you've got some trust established already. You find out where they heard about you. You're positive and smiley. You have that. You start to work on the trust if you didn't have it before.
Yep.
Being an authority and making sure that you listen more than you talk.
Yeah.
And man, there's one more little piece in there, but go back.
I think also like asking the right questions, right?
Yeah.
Asking the right question is way better than 1,000 good answers.
Well, it goes with being a good listener.
That's right.
So yeah, ask the right question and then shut up and let them tell you. And then you can even use techniques like shadowing, where you repeat the last 3 or 4 words that they said in order for them to continue on and explain more, feeling like they've been listened to, and then also getting
advice.
Confirmation that, and then, summarizing what it is you think you've heard. What I've heard, Mrs. Jones, is that, you need somebody to take care of these windows for you. You don't want it to be a hassle. You don't want your plants to get killed. Right. And you're just reiterating what man alive, that she's going to be like, they listen so good.
Yeah.
Those people are so great. They care about me.
Right. Yeah.
So in the estimate, that's a big part of the estimate, right? Because now it's kind of like that sales conversation, but you're face to face. So being clean and being respectful, that's going to help to establish the trust. Being knowledgeable and educating them, coming at them with the heart of a teacher.
Dang.
Opening yourself up to their questions, using those shadow techniques, and then also reiterating what they said.
If you were to do all that, like and you don't gain their business, like
something was up.
Yeah.
Well, assuming that you can pull those things off.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. In a perfect world.
I just gave you a stack of lasagna that, we could unpack. It might take us an hour.
Yeah.
You might want to listen to that little run like 5 or 6 times, but
right.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I think that would help close almost every single deal that the right client. Because if you come in and you're pitching to a low end market and your prices are geared towards high end and your trucks are super shiny and your gear's top notch and your people know to wear booties in the home and you have materials that educate your client and you know how to, you're just like primo service, right?
Yeah.
And you're like $1,000 and they're like, what the hell? Yeah, you're not going to land that deal.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how smooth you are.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter how long you hold their hand on the handshake.
It's the
Ocean's 12.
Yep. Yeah, but yeah, that finding that right client for that ticket average that you want to be at.
That's right.
Is crucial.
Yeah. But driving up and then having that first little bit of conversation, like where they're at. If they're talking about price and they're concerned about how much an hour they're going to pay you, and they're talking about what if we cut this and don't do that, then you're in the pricing game. And if that's where your game is, great. You just know how to play that. And we certainly can, talk about getting those deals to packages, offering them multiple levels of service so that the less, people, and they don't want to feel cheap, so they'll usually graduate towards the middle package. So you can play that kind of game.
Good, better, best.
Yep.
People are going to automatically, go towards the average one.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
You can definitely find, somebody calls you for roof cleaning or something.
Right.
You go and do an assessment of the property. You clean the roof while you're up there. You see the gutters are clogged up and driveways messed up too. You're giving them options.
That's right.
For a better deal.
Well, I think that's what one thing I like to kind of coach is this concept of an inspection. It's not an estimate, and you can do this if you already have a work order.
Right.
So this is kind of your, I'm a professional. I'm going to come in and I'm going to assess the entire property. I'm going to look at areas of concern like a mechanic would, right? And say, look, dude, you really need to take care of this now, or you've got maybe 5,000 miles before you start thinking about this.
What kind of mechanic would just do the work that you think is wrong
when they know that there's
something else,
especially if it's safety, right?
Exactly.
So you can then present them with, look, I've done an inspection. Looks like you want us to do these items. That's great. In addition to that, I would strongly encourage these, and we can talk about what those mean. I would encourage you to either get these done now while we're here, or think about maybe having us back out in 6 months. So doing some of these other things that I noticed that we can help you with.
Exactly.
And then here's a handful of optional things that, people are they like to do when they get services like this.
Exactly.
And then let Mrs. Jones simmer on that for a minute. You don't even have to push it. It doesn't need to be the gold chain snake oil salesman.
Nope.
But, making sure they're aware of all the options.
Exactly.
I think that's a very powerful tool.
If you do it right, you don't have to sell it.
No.
Like they will just be receptive to it.
If you come at it from the heart of a teacher, I'm educating you on the value that the company can bring you in addition to what you already know.
That's right.
Whether you use a service is completely irrelevant to me. I would love to provide you with as much value as I can.
Boom.
Right. If the value is come here, do a work for half an hour and get out so I can get on with my life, then we're in and out in a half an hour.
And never call you again.
Or they will.
or
Or
they
they'll
will.
call you next week and have you do that $1,000 job.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, yeah. Well, what I meant was like,
Skirting away from the minimum thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
The minimum job.
If you at least try and give that assessment and show that you care,
Yep.
but just do the work that they initially called you for, knock it out in 30 minutes, say, hey, I'm going to leave you this for the future.
That's right.
I'm still going to uphold it if you ever want to call me again.
Right.
I'll follow up with you in 6 months and you do what you say.
Yep.
That's different.
Huge.
But if you just go in, get your money, get out, transactional, like,
there's no value add there.
yeah.
I mean, they may enjoy it if you do a good job, right? They may be like, oh, really clean, really fresh, really shiny. My plants aren't dead. My squirrel's not dead. Like, everything's good. Yeah, my cat's still around.
My cat's
Yeah. Then cool. Then and then if you have a good client retention strategy, then it's likely that they'll use you again.
Exactly.
No surprises, right?
and that's where
Let's go above and beyond a little bit.
Yeah.
Because mediocre is so, mediocre.
yeah, exactly.
Although mediocre is a really low bar. Show up on time, answer your phone, do what you say you're going to do, care about your service, fix anything that happens from your client's point of view, listen to their concerns. If you just do those basic things, you're
So
already
basic.
a rock star.
It's like common sense, Joe, but like common sense ain't so common.
Yeah.
It's like if you just do that and it just seems so simple, there's no like magic phrase you can say to your customer and automatically you get like the highest ticket, get like humu humu nuku nuku apua, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
like, wow, you're such
Here's $1,000.
Yeah.
I feel compelled to write you a check right now, Javi.
Yeah, it's just the sensory acuity of reading the person in front of you.
Yeah.
Are they talkative? Are they open to in a conversation? If they want it to be transactional, I'll let it be transactional. If they
Right.
don't want to, like,
No muss, no fuss.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. No fluff, right? But you read that person, and then based off of that, you act on it.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I think that's a pretty quick and simple breakdown, right? On the phone, in the home with the estimate, and then in the home for a work order, looking for upsells, doing that inspection, right? And having a history is nice too. If you can impress Mrs. Jones with, hey, we've been servicing your property for the last 4 years. Looks like we did this a few years ago. We could do those again. We didn't do it last year. We did regular cleaning, but not protectant. You know what I mean? If you have that history, they're just like, whoa, you are my guy.
Impressive.
Yeah.
And it's like they think you remembered all this, but it's truly your CRM, not your pen
They don't
and
even
paper.
care.
Yeah.
They know what's in your system now.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
nobody's ignorant to a database at this point, except Mrs. Sally Mae, who's 98.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Miss Sally Mae.
Yep.
Yeah, my Sally Mae. Very good. All right. Well, Javi, we'll have you back. We could talk about this forever,
I know.
but I just
crazy.
kind of want to do a whitewash on those three environments with some of the things that we've heard over the years and some things we know that are effective. And, I've been, Javi, how long have you been a sales guy? Did you do sales before this
I
very
did
much?
sales before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing sales ever since I was a kid, right? Like I was like selling my
Oh,
parents
always,
on
of course.
why I should go to bed in
Right.
5 minutes versus right
When was
now.
the first time you got a check for selling somebody something?
I was 13 years old. I used my birthday money to buy a lawnmower, and I started
Selling lawns,
And I
keeping
hired
service.
the kids around and the younger kids, and they did all the tossing of the grass and all that stuff. I did the pushing of the mower, and I was 13 years old, 12 years old. But then again, like when I was like 19, 20 years old.
Yep.
Yeah, for other gigs.
I did a Guitar Center stint first.
For sales, like commission and things like that.
Yeah. And I was there for like a year and then got promoted up into the pro audio gear. So I was selling the consoles and the 2-inch.
You did school for all that stuff.
Yeah. And so they gave me some chops there. And then door to door for promotion. Business to business, door to door.
B2B.
So running around San Francisco high rises, trying not to get caught with security, knocking on doors and selling. Dude, you want to talk about a game.
It's a rush.
Oh, it's so great. That was the funnest thing. It wasn't going into areas where, just knocking on doors and talking to those business people. That was fine. But making the sale in under 3 minutes because the security guard's probably following you, because every once in a while there'll be somebody who calls up. There's a solicitor in the building, right? And so, but he's got a lag on you.
Yeah.
And so you got to change it up. You go up 3 floors and down 5 floors and up 7 floors. You hit 3 people. Oh man, it's freaking great. So that was like a pressure cooker. I was just bored as crap. So I would challenge myself on how quickly I could make those promotional sales. There were it was like a sheet of 6 tickets, $36 for the sheet. It was a promotion for something like paintball or a cruise, or where the tickets would normally be, let's say $20 or $30 a piece anyway. So it's a huge deal. Right. And so you could sell these things pretty quickly, assuming they're legit, right?
Yeah.
To the individual, and then they could give them out as
to their employees. Yeah.
And so it's just, and if they had mad money laying around, or they had the control of the checkbook, they'll take 10 sheets sometime at a pop.
You just got to talk to the right person.
Yeah. And so anyway, that was fun. And then Cutco Cutlery, about Cutlery?
Yeah, Cutco.
Yeah, I did door to door. That's B2C.
Yeah.
So knocking on consumer doors.
Yeah, actually, the first time, I think I was 15 years old when somebody came over to our house and sold us Cutco, man.
Yeah, $300 knives door to door.
My parents spent a lot more than that. They still have it till this day.
Do they?
It's crazy, but that's some hardcore stuff. If you can do door to door, you could.
I hated it.
You appreciate what it takes to.
Yeah, I did that maybe for 6 or 8 months or something like that. And then I did one more straight up sales, which was telemarketing. And I did that for about 4 months.
What company?
It was a window installation company.
Oh.
So it's just and it was auto dialer. There was 0 soul in it. It was all numbers.
Wow.
And I came in the first week. I was crushing it. And I was just I hate this. And they're like, don't go. And I'm like, no, I'm out. But, as a business owner, having that sales experience and sales background, for a decade, I was the only sales person at ServiceMonster.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe not quite that long, 8 years.
Wow.
But that experience is major as a business owner. So if you're still early in your career and you don't have a lot of sales chops, man, you're going to learn by fire.
Yeah.
You've got to have them. You've got to have them. You've got to develop the skill, or you need a partner that has it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
We'll solve anything.
Hope we brought you some value today, but that wraps up this episode of the ServiceMonster podcast. Catch us on all of your podcast channels, and until next time, be safe.
So only thing what is going on here?
Yeah.
Only thing I want to add is, first off, anytime someone mentions the door-to-door salesman, all I can think of is Napoleon Dynamite,
right?
When he's selling the Tupperware, and he just backs up over it, and it just explodes, and he just peels out to get out of there. And when you're kind of ducking and diving through those businesses, were you playing the Mission Impossible theme?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. We didn't have iPods yet,
right? Just
so I couldn't
yourself.
have my own. Oh, it would have been so much more fun if I had portable music. Oh, that would have been amazing. Yeah. No, it would have had to been like the boombox over the shoulder.
Oh yeah,
right.
Old school, late '80s, early '90s guy.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah. Fun times. But the after party here, going back to our mission of weight loss. How you doing, Adam?
So I've only lost 1 pound so far.
Okay.
But the weigh-in, it's one of the heaviest I've ever been. There was one other time in my life. It was super dark period, which is actually kind of similar to what happened this time. Death in the family kind of affected me negatively, and food was always kind of my thing. And then, now I'm here, and I used to be a lot more active at my previous job. And so it's just one of those things, you don't really realize it, but 300, calories, give or take a day, that adds up pretty quickly if you don't change your diet. Over the course of a year, you've gained.
You lie. You're like me. You got to be, right? Just like the whole bag.
Well, probably, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because it's closet. Like, nobody talks about this shit.
Yeah.
Even comedians, like, they'll skirt on it.
Right.
But you know what? My wife and I, and so I know it's because it's my wife and I know it's not a phenomenon. It's just shit that nobody talks about. Like, it's a bloodbath.
Yep.
When it's like, let's have dessert tonight, babe, it means I'm going to pick up a couple choices from the store, and there'll be nothing left in the morning, and we'll feel like shit.
Right. Like, you can make any pizza a personal pizza.
Hell yeah.
It's just,
Yeah. Oh, my son and I will occasionally split a couple pizzas. We'll each have a whole pizza.
Yep.
Yeah, me and my 19-year-old.
No, that's exactly it. Like, food was always, everyone has their vice, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has some sort of vice. And for me, it was always food. Like, that was that thing. And the hardest thing about it, when that's your vice, right, is that you can't really stop eating. Like, if your vice is smoking,
Right.
It's difficult, but you can survive without a cigarette.
That's right.
Though some of you probably maybe don't feel that way when you're quitting. But you can't just stop eating. And so there's really kind of some kind of psychological things you have to do. And then there's, like you said, like, there are some different diet things that you can do to help yourself.
Well, that's interesting because it brings up the topic directly that I wanted to touch on. Just real briefly, my way in, I have done jack crap with the death of my father-in-law and putting our house back together. I have not yet officially started my journey. I'm still eating crap. Now, I'm not shoving my face full of food. It's just my calorie intake right now. I'm not monitoring. I'm not doing anything that I need to be doing. That being said, I still lost 3 pounds just because I'm not gorging.
Probably stress more than anything with all this last couple of weeks.
Yeah, stress doesn't affect me that way. I just bite my nails. That's about it. And that's just all the time because I got so many plates.
Right.
But the thing I wanted to touch on, and coming back to what you were saying about mentality and habits, there's a very interesting thing that happens in the flora and fauna in your gut. And I picture it like a war. Picture it like Game of Thrones. There are a handful of factions, and they're all fighting for resources. There are trillions of bacteria, and there are dozens upon dozens upon dozens of different species of bacteria. Each of those bacteria eat and produce different things. Thank you. When you eat sugar, for instance, let's say the Lannisters swell in numbers. They get a lot bigger, and they start to starve out some of the other families. That's not good. And what happens when you stop eating sugar, and you can check this out, I've read multiple studies on this. In my analogy here, the Lannisters will start producing hormones which will directly influence your cravings and behavior. Let me state that more plainly. The bacteria in your gut have mind control over you. And day one, it's pretty simple. You're like, I'm going to start a diet. Here we go. Day one's pretty easy, man. I did pretty good. I feel pretty good. Lay your head in that pillow and it's all good. Day two, you go, oh, man, candy bar. Wait, nope, I got this. I got that hamburger. Nope, I got this. Day two, not a big deal. Day three, you're like, shit, I already ate something and I didn't really think about the fact that I shouldn't have been eating it. I forgot I was good over the last, my day's ruined. Fuck it. Let's go get some ice cream.
Yep.
And so that's how they get you. So in order to give yourself the best chance of success, the first thing that I've learned to do going on this journey multiple times is you have to reboot your gut. It gives you an immense edge. You've got to get the healthy bacteria in your gut that like the good stuff to win the war and starve out. Like, who wins the war, Joe? Whoever you feed, man. You stop giving sugar and refined carbohydrates to the Lannisters, and they'll scream and yell, and for 2 weeks you'll get headaches. You won't feel good. Your energy levels will actually go down, and your cravings, especially between, like, let's say day 5 and day 7 or 8, are ridiculous. It's total manipulation, and you're trying to outcon yourself. You're driving around like, I'll just pull off on this fast food. Oh wait, no, I shouldn't do it, but it's okay. Just this one, and like, you'll rationalize the crap out of it. That's the bacteria playing with your mind. So if you can get past that couple week period and reboot your gut, and there's a handful of ways you can do this, right? You can just, you have to stop like taking in the sugar and the refined carbohydrates completely 100%. You go to meats, you go to nuts, you go to veg, you go, very little fruit, if any. You do that for 2 weeks to 3 weeks, and that will help reboot. And then on the downside of that, you start rebuilding with things like yogurt or, sauerkraut or kefir. If you're really in the know, you can make kefir. Kefir is amazing. It's a fermented milk.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I don't like that I know that. I don't know why I know that.
You don't like that? You know that? I'm a farm guy, so I know that, right? We've made our own kefir. So that's the short version of kind of just what I wanted to touch on, is that, you want to give yourself a big chance of success. Understand what goes on in your body and the war that goes on. You're a whole ecosystem for trillions of other organisms. And sometimes they want shit to stay the same.
Yep.
Give me that sugar. That's good stuff. The Lannisters are rich, right? And so, anyway, that was folded in perfectly to kind of where I'm at. Yeah. I need to get in my gut reboot phase.
And I think too, like when we first mentioned this in the B-roll, it's the simplest thing, but it's really difficult, and this is one reason why. You also just have the fact that it's habitual. Like, you've been making the same foods, doing the same thing. Maybe on all of your lunch, you're going out to whatever McDonald's or Denny's.
Circumstance.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and that's a great point too. So setting up a game plan, I think, is important, and even not only allowing failure, but also allowing micro failure. Don't allow one failure to ruin the day and give you an excuse to binge that night. Right? Just be like, okay, well, damn, I had that cheeseburger, or I went and got a box of Swiss rolls, or whatever it is, right?
Right.
It's $1.28, dude. Like, for a whole box. Come on. Why do you think they sell them by the truckload?
Right.
Right? Talk about a product that makes its money on scale and nobody talks about it. Yeah. So all of that stuff, Little Debbie is the devil. That's totally it.
The other thing that I do is tracking my calories, and that one's a little bit harder. It's easier now with all the apps.
You have to.
Yeah, and like, that's outside of everything else.
What do you use?
MyFitnessPal.
Yeah, that's the one I use too.
Yeah,
it's amazing. MyFitnessPal, it's free. Go get it. Track your calories. If you're a standard grown man, you'll be around 2,500. You want to stay under 2,000 if you really want to hit it hard.
I would highly recommend to buy a food scale. They're relatively inexpensive.
Good. Yes.
But
now you're getting hardcore.
Yeah.
Usually I wait a couple weeks to start talking about scales.
It seems hardcore, but man, you visit enough weightlifting forums, you see what they're doing.
I do meal prep. Yeah, no, I get it.
It actually becomes pretty easy in the process. And it's funny saying that now, but I've been in much better shape in my life. I know you have too. And so it's one of those things that just have to get back on that. And I think just to kind of end this, I guess, is your big thing, you've mentioned this many times, is sometimes you can't focus too much on all of this. You need to have that plan. You need to follow through with it. But the biggest thing is just taking that first step. Like, you just got to, you might fall, you might stumble a little bit. You got to take that first step, and don't let any bad days, any slow momentum stop you. Like,
that's right.
Keep moving forward.
I think there's a couple different barriers, but there's a breakthrough point too.
Yep.
And I've witnessed it because I've been humbled enough to be the inspiration for a handful of other people's journeys and their breakthrough, and watching them go through this. The first step's always the hardest. Convince yourself to do it. But it's not the hardest because lots of people start diets.
Right.
And what you need to do is you need to overall change your mentality and, your habits, how you think about food, your relationship with food. And then you really should define what your goals are, but not necessarily give yourself a timetable. Like I have a freakish physiology. When I'm on point, I will lose 0.8 pounds a day. And I will maintain that pulse for 2 months. Easy. And, I'll be at 2,000 calories, but it's what I eat. And it's also, exercise is going to be 15% of it. Diet is 85% of it. I mean, you could literally get what I would call skinny fat with just diet alone, where you're no longer fat, where your clothes look decent and you're good. Now, you're not strong and you're kind of flabby and squishy. Right, you might not have a strong core. That you would, because the human body needs to be exercised.
Right,
it needs to be worked out. It's made to run, for crying out loud.
I'd say that most of that ties into health.
Yes,
the weight loss itself is one part of that. But
yes.
Exactly, like health is a lot of things. It's flexibility, it's strength. It's all of this tied together.
Totally. And then also health about weight loss. I think our culture is wrong. Right, we have an obese culture. But we also have a culture who idealizes unattainable beauty. Like you look at the fitness covers and those dudes that are super ripped, they don't drink water for like 6 hours to 12 hours before those shoots.
Yep.
Like they starve themselves to death for 3 to 4 days before those shoots so they can get the absolute leanest they can get before the pictures.
It's the reason why everyone kind of feels like they look better in the mornings than they do at night, because they're dehydrated.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
That's right. And so, where the human male body is most healthy is somewhere between 8 and 12% body fat. And you're not seeing your six pack at that stage. You look good on the beach, but you got the roll, right? But that's the most healthy male human body. We idealize, bodybuilders and weightlifters, and a lot of those guys, especially super shredded, are as unhealthy as super obese people. And they will have very similar problems later in life, especially if they maintain that level of obsession, right? Which you can totally get into. I've been hooked into it before, I know. So, I've never used drugs or anything. I don't want to, make people think that I've never shot up steroids or, but I have been obsessed with my health. And it's a good place to be, but obsession is obsession. So
that's right.
Addiction is addiction. Yeah, you replace your food addiction with lifting addiction. Congratulations, you're still an addict.
Yep.
So, there it goes into that. But yes, the first step is I wouldn't say the hardest because it's the most frequent, but it's definitely difficult because you're setting yourself up to, I will, but in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, but I really like cookies. And then, you get into it, you get those bacteria then whispering to you. That's where shit gets real.
Yep.
In that second week, third week. Now, one of two ways. You start seeing results, you get excited, you keep up the momentum, you use that to drive you, everything works out, and eventually you're golden. And then, is it sticky? Is it going to last? And then the other way is you don't see results right away. And that's when tons of people give up. Like, I've been giving up all this stuff for the last freaking 3 weeks, and the results I'm seeing aren't there. Now, I have a hard time believing these stories, to be honest.
And that's where the calorie tracking, all of that comes into play, because sometimes you're eating more than you think.
You'll fool yourself.
Yep.
All the time. And so I have my metabolism, I have a thyroid problem. I take a pill. Yeah, it's like a few hundred calories, man. Come on. It's not really like the big shift. And then what you eat too, right? That's what these apps are going to help with as well. Your micronutrient levels as you start to play. And we'll talk about this in later episodes. Your balances between your fats, your proteins, and your carbohydrates, super important. Get your carbs low. You get 2 sources of carbs, rice and sweet potato. That's it. That's it. You can stick to that for your carbs. Like, all you have to do is that and drink water. Drink nothing else but water and get carbs only from sweet potatoes and rice. If you just do that, you're golden.
Yeah.
No sugar, no refined. And then you'll realize, well, shit, this grocery store is only 20% of its size now, because I can only shop in that fresh fruit, produce, and meat.
Yep.
That's all I can do. Yeah, that's right.
Also, definitely look at different ways to cook those things, because you also don't want to go into, okay, I'm going to have chicken and rice every meal for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah,
and
bland.
I'm never going to go off of that.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, please not again.
Right.
Yeah. Like, you have to be realistic about it.
Or doing the other way, I'm going to have chicken and rice every night. Joe said so. And 6 gallons of teriyaki sauce.
Yeah. Don't drop the high fructose corn syrup stuff on there either. Yeah.
So you got to be careful with that. Anyways, we could just keep going and going and going. But what I wanted to focus on, what you brought in good into the attention here, is that, that first couple steps, micronutrient, the gut rebuild. Go look up those bacteria that can control your mind. It's a real deal. So,
do we have anyone else who's hopping in on this? Like maybe on Facebook or anything? Anyone else? Maybe we can kind of bring on this journey with us.
Hey, if you guys happen to be still listening, and you want to help participate in this, like, hit me up. We can even, we'll make a group or something. Yeah. If there's any interest. If it's just you and I, it'll be interest in 3 months when they're like skinny us sitting at the table. They're like, what happened to those 2 guys? Justin, what kind of camera tricks are you using? Gradually over time, I shrank them down.
Well, you got a really wide lens. And
that's right.
Change the ISO.
Very good. All right, gentlemen. Well, hey, if you're on this journey, if you're listening, if you find this of value, give us a shout out. I'm not quite ready for my gut rebuild yet, to be honest. Not because I'm not willing to go on the journey, but the things I got going on in my family life preclude it. This is another thing. I guess we can talk just one more second. Having ways to fail, like I have escape hatches, and I'll share those, like where it can be a cheat, but it's not going to affect you. Not going to hit your metabolism. It's not going to hit your, but it gives you a little like, oh, okay, I can get on, right? I can keep moving forward because that craving just hits or whatever.
Yeah.
Even in a pinch, like, shit, we didn't take the meat out. Like, it's already late. There was no dinner. Crap, I got to feed the family. Okay, and then what do you do in order to restrain yourself without just falling back on, let's just go to Little Caesars and get a pizza because it's cheap and it feeds everybody right away. Yeah. And then meal prep, I'm sure we'll talk about that too.
Yes.
Anyways, let us know, guys. Be safe.
Take care.